The president's defense of Porter on Twitter echoes what he said yesterday about his former aide in the Oval Office.
It was very sad when we heard about it, and certainly he's also very sad. Now, he also, as you probably know, he says he's innocent, and I think you have to remember that. He said very strongly yesterday that he's innocent. So you'll have to talk to him about that, but we absolutely wish him well.
It might be a little jarring to hear the president defend someone accused of beating two of his ex-wives, but it's not entirely surprising. The president has a track record of defending men accused of abuse or harassment. For example, listen to what he said about his former campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, when he was accused of grabbing a female reporter's arm so hard he left bruises.
He's a good person with a wonderful family, 4 beautiful kids, and they're destroying that man over nothing. You take a look at that tape, and she's grabbing me. Now, maybe I should press charges against her. She's not supposed to be grabbing me.
Now, here's what he said about former Fox News chief Roger Ailes after he was accused of sexual harassment.
I can tell you that some of the women that are complaining, I know how much he's helped them.
We're not done yet. The president also defended former Fox News personality Bill O'Reilly when he was accused of sexual harassment.
He's a person I know well. He's a good person. I think he may, I think he shouldn't have settled. I don't think Bill would do anything wrong.
It doesn't end there. The president also defended and endorsed Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore after he was accused of inappropriate behavior with teenage girls, including child molestation.
If you look at what is really going on and you look at all the things that have happened over the last 48 hours, he totally denies it. He says it didn't happen, and you have to listen to him also.
And when then candidate Trump was accused by multiple women of sexual harassment and assault, here's what he said about his own accusers.
They just come out. Some are doing it for probably a little fame. They get some free fame. It's a total setup. People that are willing to say, oh, I was with Donald Trump in 1980. I was sitting with him on an airplane. And he went after me on the plane. Yeah, I'm going to go after. Believe me, she would not be my first choice, that I can tell you.
Joining us now, CNN political analyst and Republican strategist Alice Stewart and Washington Post columnist Catherine Rampell. So, Alice, what's the first word that comes to your mind when you hear those sound bites I just played?
Disgusting comes to mind. Disturbing also comes to mind. Look, I think we're not surprised that the president, being loyal to friends and people that are loyal to him, that he said that Rob Porter is innocent and stood by him. That's fine if that's what he wants to do, but as president of the United States, he should have followed that up with, however, domestic violence is abhorrent and there's no place for it in our society. But as you just outlined on it, it's a pattern, whether he's talking about friends or colleagues or others in public service. They have always tried to downplay these kind of allegations, whether we're talking about domestic violence or sexual harassment. They downplay it, they defend the man, and they try and discredit the women. And that is really, really troubling. And in this case, what's even more troubling is when you have someone that has such a personal, abhorrent behavior, that should be disqualifying for public office and public service. And I think we need to really take a close look at the standard that's being set here and make sure that we really speak out against domestic violence.
Catherine, again, the question why? Why is the president's first instinct to believe the men and not the women?
Presumably projection. He has to protect his own reputation, and if he lends any sense of credibility, greater credibility to these women accusers, these female accusers of other alleged predators of various stripes, then maybe people will start to believe increasingly the women who have accused him. I just can't think of any other reason. And perhaps, maybe he just doesn't see women in general as credible. He's made lots of misogynistic comments about women in general, so maybe that transfers to his likelihood to believe women when they're accusing his friends and associates as well.
He was quick to throw Harvey Weinstein under the bus when the accusations against him came out. And yet, Alice, the other thing that stood out about his tweet today was the president asking if due process still exists. This is coming from the same person who accused Ted Cruz's father of assassinating JFK, not to mention him leading the chants of lock her up during the campaign, as Ryan Nobles mentioned. How do you square it?
I think, look, he looks at due process with regard to people that he aligns himself with and who he likes. And the sad reality is that domestic violence is nonpartisan, it is non-gender, it is not race, color, creed, sex, or national origin. This is a true problem, and we need to look at it that way. And I think we need to listen more to the people who are victims of domestic violence than those who are accused of it, not just by one ex-wife, but by two and someone else. I think we need to take a step back and give these women a voice, let them not be afraid to come out and speak, and let them know that we are really taking a serious look at this. I'm encouraged by Vice President Pence, who has said when he was over at the Olympics that there's no place for domestic violence, and he is committed to taking a closer look at this when he comes back. I hope this is a time that we make some changes with regard to this.
Republican Congressman Charlie Dent is one of the few Republicans, you mentioned Mike Pence as well, who is speaking out about the Porter abuse controversy. Let's listen to what he told our colleague Frederica Whitfield today.
There has to be a zero tolerance towards that type of domestic violence that is being discussed in these two situations. That's very clear. And of course, we should be very sympathetic and empathetic to the victims, to the women who have been violated here, subject of violence. That said, I think it's important for the president to acknowledge the victims.
So now we have 12 Democrat senators who have written the White House asking for more information about Porter, whether he disclosed these allegations. Catherine, Alice hit on this earlier. Are you surprised that there aren't more Republicans, the party of family values, also a party that's struggling with female voters that aren't speaking out to rebuke this?
You know, I am and I'm not. On the one hand, this should not be a partisan issue. This should be something that everyone could make, even the most bland of statements, just saying, look, domestic violence is bad. It will not be tolerated. But President Trump could not do that. Why would we expect the people who line themselves up behind President Trump to come out and condemn this kind of behavior? Because there'll be guilt by association, essentially.
So what benefit is it for them to stay silent?
I think that they don't want to be seen on the side of the people who are bad. And if they acknowledge that there are people who are bad on their side, then they're tainted. So that's why you didn't see the evangelical community coming out against Trump during the election, even though we saw more than a dozen women accusing him of various forms of sexual harassment and sexual assault. That's why you didn't see the evangelical community and the family values types coming out against Trump when he has made lots of other comments about women, when he's made lots of other sort of anti-family comments. I think it's not entirely surprising. Our politics are so tribalistic right now that it's a little bit hard, I think, for people on either side to be able to consistently hold to whatever principles they espouse if, in fact, those principles occasionally go against the people on their team.
Or to look inside themselves.